Good morning, everybody. So let me, just from a housekeeping standpoint, make a qualifying statement. So I'm from Dallas, Texas, where it is currently 7:35 in the morning. And I am still on Dallas, Texas time. I am not a morning person. I am not a morning person. I understand the morning goes until 11:59, right? I am a mid-morning kind of guy, right? So the reason I bring that up is because I want y'all to give me a little grace and concentrate on the content, not the delivery so much, okay? So with that being said, I do want to say one last thing before I switch over to Michael. I understand that Michael has over 50 years, almost 60 years of leadership in proprietary education. So what I didn't include in my bio is, did the calculation last night, and I'm right around 35 years. The majority of that being on the career college side of the equation. So I worked in career colleges for almost 20 years in various leadership positions, including admissions and financial aid and career services. The reason I bring that up is because I want to make sure that you guys understand that although I'm an outsider, I'm actually an insider, right? And I do appreciate the APC, Donna. Thank you for the invite, and thank all of you for inviting me to your clubhouse. I still have not learned the secret handshake, and I'm looking forward to that before the end of the day. I'll be leaving today, heading to Queens, where I'll visit a couple of schools, and then who knows what happens from there. I'll end up in Manhattan or somewhere for the next couple of days, and then back in Dallas and back to the grind. So with that, the housekeeping notes, I wanted to make sure I got that out there into the ether. Michael, you want to chime in?
Can you hear me? Well, good morning. As a disclaimer, I've worked with Trey now for 2.5 years. We've had a partnership in helping to build our institution. So I just want to let you know that we do have a relationship that goes back quite a while now. Not only professional, but as a friend as well. So I was trying to think of ways I would prepare for this morning's activity. I asked Donna's opinion, and by the way, Donna, shout out to you and your staff. I know everybody said it, really seriously. Just think of who was here yesterday and how we have to follow what you guys heard yesterday. It was really amazing, Donna. So I asked Donna, I said, how should I best go about presenting what I have learned in the last 2.5 years and what we've experienced in our institution that may, in some way, trigger a response in your human resources division that you may want to rethink some of the things that you are doing right now, some of the activities that you've become accustomed to that may or may not be successful. We found something that's very successful. It's a little odd, so this is not a platform for everybody to pick up and say this is the way we do it, but I'm going to explain over the course of the next few minutes as I begin to kick off this session what happened with our institution and how it became associated with the Wright Company. In 2017, we became a degree-granting institution. Non-degree for all the years before. 2017, we're a degree-granting institution, and all of a sudden, we're supposed to know how to do everything on the college level. That was pretty traumatic for all of us. One of the things that was the most important, though, was to properly staff and properly reach out and get the finest higher education, college-level activity at our institution. How are we going to do that without being in a desert and not knowing how to? I met Chris from LIM back about 7 years ago. We had a conversation, and he suggested that we use a particular service to get resumes, and begin the search to build the institution out from the beginning. It worked for the first couple of years. COVID hit, things changed, things dried up, this activity did not work for us at all, and out of the blue, 2.5 years ago approximately, Trey Wright sends an email and says, okay, you know, we have a service, maybe you want to look into it. It's a recruiting service, and it may help to get your institution going. So I said, okay, that's a really good idea, I think, because we had no resumes, we were getting no activity, and we were just at a standstill. So now, we begin to reach out and get students that, get staff members that Trey had suggested we look into, had already done a really good job at profiling them for our institution, and then he began to send those folks to me. I was the first person that a new applicant in an institution would talk to. Usually I would be the last person, or next to the last person, and I'm signing the checks. It was kind of unusual that I would take up their resume and contact the student, the future employee, and have a conversation with them, getting them familiar with the institution. And there is something that I learned from recently from Half Employment Agency. They're a pretty big outfit. They do a lot of work in recruiting. And their motto is skills and fit. The skills part was pretty easy. Trey was able to, you know, synthesize it down so it would fit the position. But the other part of it, that intrigued me. And the fit was what I thought was one of the most important things that could happen in a relationship with somebody new coming into your institution. We have a story, as all of you have a story about your college, and how it evolved, what it specializes in, its success, and we gathered the information together, talked to the applicant, and I told them in conversation. That was the first person they talked to was me, and I told them in a conversation about the mission, about our philosophy, about how we are a family and how we go about educating our students, and all the things that you don't necessarily hear in a beginning of a conversation for folks to come to your institution. So when that process was over and it was a good fit, and we had a conversation, I talked about it for about an hour, and which is great because I love talking about my college. That's where that's my comfort zone, and explaining what we want, how we do business, what we want for now and in the future, and we came to an understanding that this is a good opportunity for them to come and interview. So we set up an interview. They understood that I was just the first person they talked to. Many times they didn't know that I was the chairman. I didn't reveal that to many of the applicants, kept it to myself. And so we'd have a conversation. They wouldn't be concerned that they're talking to the person at the end of the line, basically. And this was the beginning process. And then they go to the institution, they meet the team, they meet the college president, Pat Hart, and then they make the decision as to how and when they fit into our college. It was a really interesting process. Just by a raise of hands, how many of you or any of members of the Human Resources Department speak to the applicant first? Wow. The applicant first. Human Resources. Does anybody at the institution, other than Human Resources, speak to the applicant before they come to the interview? We felt that if the applicant had a feeling of what this institution was all about, how it conducted its business, what its philosophy was, how it implemented its mission, then there would be a potential fit that would allow the institution to grow. We have right now approximately 26 staff members. Almost half of them come from Trey Wright. Almost half. The fit has been unbelievable. One of the ways that has happened, and one of the things that makes it successful for our institution, is that Trey Wright understands us. That's an important element in attaching to the right kind of staff member, or faculty member, administrator. So with that knowledge, he's able to smooth out some of the rough spots in the beginning of the process. The applicant, after speaking with me, comes to the institution, and they're pretty psyched because I'm just flying all over the place as far as my institution is concerned. So they get a good feeling about what's going on, and they're already understanding at a level that is beyond some of the basic stuff that you think of when you think of human resources. They've already bought into what we want for them now, how they fit into the future, how their lives can be changed, and how they can change the lives of the students that they serve. So our relationship has worked. It's been a wonderful opportunity for us to grow our institution. It may not be the only way to do it, but there are things you're going to learn this morning from Trey. He's the professional that may enhance your human resources department and may make it a little more receptive to the new applicant and a little better able to adjust to the various activities that are specific to your college. So with that, if there's any basic questions now, I'd be happy to answer them. Trey?
Yeah, so thank you, Michael, for that. And I skipped to this slide because is there anybody out here that's ever seen this at an interview or ever been this person? Yeah? No? Okay. You guys, I guess we can go home, Mike. So the reality is that retention, in my experience, has a ripple effect. Employee retention has a ripple effect on the institution itself. One of the things that is affected by attrition is uncertainty with the student population, instability with the student population, just an overall concern about where the institution is going and where the institution is heading, right? So I wanted to bring this slide up because a couple of things that come up. The hiring process, it's more than just screening tool for the candidate. It's also the candidate using it as a screening tool for you, right? And everybody probably has heard that a candidate, you're not only interviewing the candidate, but the candidate's also interviewing you, right? And the things that we're doing during that interview process can very well affect the outcome. The days of, and again, nobody raised their hand, so you guys are probably not in this camp. But the days of we're the only show in town, or we're the best thing smoking, are gone. Competition is fierce, and I know that because that's what I do all day, every day, right? The gentleman, and I can't remember his name, but the last gentleman that spoke before cocktail hour, he said something that was really important. And I was wondering if anybody else caught this. But they've been talking about this for a while in higher education, period. It's about outcomes, right? And moving the traditional education model to a for-profit model where outcomes are going to be just as important as how many numbers we get on the front end. And so I'm curious if anybody thought about the actual effect when that takes place that it could have on the proprietary school industry, right? People, I don't know, I've had this feeling myself. If I could go to work for the University of Texas and get all those benefits, I'm probably going to work for the University of Texas and getting all those benefits if I was in a position to be thinking about a new opportunity, right? So the thing I have to think about is what do I need to do to keep those people to attract and keep those people who very well are also going to be attractive to the not-for-profit traditional education space, right? So we got to be very careful, or at least I think we have to be very careful in the way we approach it. So I had and just so everyone knows, this is slide 11 of 20. And Michael and I were sitting over here before this presentation started. This was the first time we really got together and started talking about what we were going to do. So we called an audible. I had to make an adjustment. So I'm going to go forward in this process and see just where we are. So if you've been in leadership long enough, you've probably experienced this. Someone you value leaves. And the first question is why? The answer is usually more complex than the compensation alone. So let's take a closer look at the factors that are going to affect the reason people leave. So good people often leave because of chronic work overload. That's that burnout. Has anybody here, now I don't know, we're going to get a hand in a minute, Michael. Has anybody here either suffered the burnout or been involved in a situation that resulted in burnout? Whoa. Yeah, see? Yeah. So if we as leaders have done that, what do you think about those people that we're leading? So the excitement during the hiring cycle, it fades quickly if expectations aren't met early on in that person's tenure. Michael mentioned something about a part of the process that we have implemented where he talks to every candidate. That's leadership or otherwise, right? And he has a conversation with them. How exciting is it to have a conversation with the chairman? And the thing is when they first start having that conversation, they don't know it's the chairman. And the reason that's important, everybody probably knows, because the person interviewing would actually not be the person that you're actually getting. That would be the representative of the person interviewing, right? They would be their own representative because they know they're talking to the chairman of the college. So we keep that under wraps until the end of that conversation, letting them know that they've just now had a conversation with the chairman and, oh my God, the excitement. Now they're going back, what did I think? What did I say? All the things. But the excitement is continuing because then we have a process after that that's a really consistent process. And Pat Hart over here, who's the president of New York Automotive and Diesel Institute, helps us to implement and stabilize that process. People need support, communication, and clarity from leadership. When the connection weakens, disenchantment often follows. And finally, if there's no growth opportunities, and this is especially relevant for high achievers, if there's no growth opportunities, they'll find growth opportunities elsewhere. And we've seen that too. So, those are some of the factors that affect why strong employees leave and really why any employee leaves. I wanted to say one more thing about this process, about this slide deck. This slide deck, which is, if you go back to slide 1, which we're probably not going to have time to do at this point, but if we go back to slide 1 all the way through the end, it's a strategy for implementation on a career college campus level that can revolutionize the retention that you see in your employees. And this is something that we've been working on for quite a while. And the real reason is, and I have to say this, and I need to make sure that everyone understands this, I'm a recruiter. And I try to find the best talent for the schools that I'm working for. One thing that I do not do, and I will literally fire someone for doing, is if they're poaching within the APC schools. I do not do that. We do not do that. I will not allow that. There are, at last count, I don't know if this is still accurate, but 398 accredited institutions in the state of New York. That's universities and colleges, all total. I was corrected yesterday because the data that I saw said that there were 34 degree granting for-profit schools in New York State, And I think that refers to campuses because I was told that there were 17. So if we really, and then there's 84 for-profit colleges, including cosmetology, barber, all the certificate programs in the state of New York. So I say that to say there's a lot of talent in New York, and many people are with a school that's not enhancing their skill set. So those are the schools that we're going after. Those are the people that we're going after, not internally within the APC. So I think it's really important to say that. Let's move on to these questions here. So there's a couple of questions that I want you guys to take away from this presentation. And by the way, there will be a QR code at the end of this presentation for you to download the slide deck. So just at your tables and among yourselves, discuss these questions. Which of these factors are most prevalent at your institution? And what's one thing that you could do in the next 90 days to improve whatever that is? So can we take a couple of minutes and you guys talk about that? And I'll call on a couple of tables and see if we can get some responses from the crowd. So again, the questions: which of these is a factor that's happening at your campus now? And what's one thing that you can do within the next 90 days to improve that factor? We'll take a couple of minutes and then we'll jump back in.
Hey, Trey, we ready to go?
Yep. All right. So let's jump back in and hear a couple of responses if we have any responses. Anyone want to go? Anybody got a situation that's happened at their campus that looks like this? Anybody? Nobody even has it? Yes, sir. Clint?
Well, I've had 3 employees who've left recently. Let's see. One was doing three young people. I like to retain young people because of their skills with technology and that type of thing. I mean, compared to me with the computer, it's my second language working with the computer, and it's their first language. So they have a big advantage on me. But one left because was part-time, and she found a job with a beauty company full-time in social, and she was working in social media part-time. So I guess that one really isn't contributed, would be no growth path. And the other one really was promoted they both went about 18 months or so. The other one was promoted 3 times. She started as receptionist, promoted to reception library assistant, and then promoted to career service advisor. Young person, I think she found a job with a law firm in New York, in Manhattan, that was, I mean, probably in an A building where I'm really in a C building. And so I think that might have been more cultural mismatch.
Okay.
That person.
Yep.
And the other one only stayed for about a month, and she wrote me. So it's harder to tell with her, but she wrote me her termination letter, her resignation letter just was like I was the worst person ever, and that for some reason, but she only stayed for a few weeks. But she wanted to, she I guess didn't see a growth path, but she only been there for a few weeks. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where I came out.
So just as a disclosure, Clint, I've never worked for you. but I've worked with you.
Yeah.
And you're not the worst person. Just so you know. So what have we thought about, or what have we learned that we might be able to implement or do? Michael, he's still got the mic.
Well, we didn't. I don't think you really gave us enough time to, because we didn't really get to discuss it with our table because it was fairly short. But I don't know what. I just don't know how to make an adjustment to get to retain these young people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they want something more. I mean, in one case, she wanted something more corporate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I can immediately think of is questions regarding alignment during the interview, right? To make sure that we're in alignment with what her goals are, with what our goals are, and how we're able to help her reach whatever those goals are, could be part of the solution. It won't be the only solution, but it can be part of the solution. The other thing is we've got, I don't know, 50 people in here or so, 45, 30, and somebody might have some additional suggestions for you during this portion of the presentation. Anyone else? I think I saw your hand go up. Someone else's hand go up for anything on this list that has burdened them and people leaving early? No? Okay. Again, Michael, we can leave. And I wanted to write that down, Clint, because I'll be talking to you about that before this presentation is over, or actually when this presentation is over. I'm going to have a list of, of characteristics that you might want to take a look at and be thinking about relative to interview questions that could be helpful in ensuring that you are finding people who are aligned with your culture, with your mission, with your school. And I'll make those available to anyone who wants them. And they are very specific to the career college sector. Very specific. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to work in this sector.
Trey, do you have an expectation of how long you expect people to stay at your school? I mean, what your retention goal is to hire someone?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I think, and this is my own personal opinion, and I don't have any data to back this up, but my thoughts are, just based on the experience that I've had, is if I can get someone to stay with me for 3 years, they're probably going to stay longer. That's the first thing. But secondly, they've had an opportunity to get some traction in doing what they're doing for me, and they've actually paid for themselves. And that's kind of my bar, is 3 years. And again, if someone stays for 3 years, you're probably going to see them a lot longer. It's just been my experience. Any other questions off the top? Michael, you want to jump in and say anything?
Yeah, I didn't realize initially how important it was to have a cultural fit. That's part of the formula that have to use to evaluate potential candidates for employment. And I didn't realize until I started getting into the activity and actually doing it, that in fact, that is one of the most critical things that is a component of a person's desire to join your organization, and for you to, on the other side, reap the benefits of that long-term employment. Because we know, and this is not anecdotal, we know this is for a fact, when somebody leaves abruptly from your institution, it creates a vacuum, it creates a hole, and that is a difficult thing to fill. And if you're not prepared in all ways and shapes to be able to fill that position as quickly as possible, you know what happens to your institution. We talk about enrollments, we talk about retention, we talk about all those things, but one of the things that slides under the radar is when you may lose a liked faculty member, an administrator that's important in a particular department, and that has a reverberation throughout your entire institution. And so I believe, and this is why I'm semi-retired, you know, for all intents and purposes, I got my own deal going, and I pick my times to come into the institution and do what I need to do. And yet, this was the most important thing that I thought I could contribute to the growth of our college, is imparting a mission statement that connects the applicant to the institution. And then you don't have somebody leaving after a month because, oh, I didn't figure out this, or I didn't understand that. You have to make a design that is going to last, and something that is going to want to bring that applicant in and have that applicant continue to work for you. And that is an important element. We don't spend enough time. Maybe you do. I certainly did not, up until the time I picked up this mantle, and I ran with it. We don't spend enough time on developing our human resources departments. And I would just make a suggestion. Now, human resources, they have a lot of technical things to do to connect an applicant to the institution. But I would have someone in the enrollment process, whether in the employment process, excuse me, I would have someone, and Trey would verify that this is the best way to go about it, to have someone who understands what you're all about, and can come prepared and ready to go. And that's part of Trey, what Trey has been able to bring to the table. And that if you're in a situation where your human resources department is just going by rote, they're looking at a resume and they're, okay, fine, you got good skills, come on in, you'll be fine. That is not the approach, I believe, that works in the long run. Because it's not going to connect that person to the institution, and we know the disruption that occurs when they're not there. So I just wanted to emphasize this point, and that human resources is a critical part of our process. We don't really think about it. We think of enrollments and financial aid, compliance, all the regulations and everything, but human resources and connecting the student and the applicant to the position is critical. It's critical to the success of our institutions. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? So if you want to have some sense of something that comes out of this session this morning, is that you go back to your institutions and you have a fresh look at human resources. You have a fresh look at how you initially discussed about the opportunities that exist at your colleges. We are very fortunate. We have colleges that have achieved things that are magnificent in higher education. That story has to get told, because that's something that an applicant picks up on and says, hey, I want this for my future. This is what I would like to, this is a part of where I want to be. And that's not X's and O's. That's fit. And that's an important part, an important element in this whole entire process.
So to Michael's point, thank you, Michael. To Michael's point, here's some of the outcomes that we've been able to experience in this partnership. So as Michael said, and I think that number is actually 17. So it's either 16 or 17 people that have come through our firm to New York Automotive and Diesel Institute. And over that time, we've been able to experience a 3-to-1 candidate to hire ratio, which means that leaders are taking much less time out of their operational day to interview candidates, because you're not dealing with a big stack, you're dealing with a really small stack of highly qualified people, or at least he has been. And from that, of those people that we've had placed, actually it's been 20 because 3 are no longer there, or 4 now. So we've got a higher than almost 80% retention percentage over the 2.5 years that we've had our partnership. Do you have a question?
Yeah, that would be a total number that came from your agency. What was the mix between staff and faculty, and also recruiting out of the area, out of state, into your organization?
It's a really good question. So, did everybody hear the question? Okay. So, I want to say that as of today, because we just had another offer yesterday on the faculty side, there's been 9 faculty, and the rest have been administration and staff. Yep.
And then outside the area?
Oh, outside the area. Yeah. Thank you. So no, everybody's been from New York. Everybody's been from actually within the city, within the 5 boroughs.
So no relocation
No relocation. No, sir. No, sir. Now, just so you know, I mean, that's a great stat. And the good news is New York is just chock full of talent. It really is. You guys have an embarrassing level of talent in New York.
Just let me jump in for a second here, Trey. It just occurred to me a thought that I want to pass along based on the question. Trey has not only provided faculty members, which we're a specialty institution basically, and has helped fill our faculty needs, but also Bursaw, librarian, admissions, financial aid, all of those things that are important to the function of a college today. And he goes and finds, I don't know how he does it, he has his little formulas that work. Everything is above board. Everything is, you know, we have a process that's clean and precise. But he reaches into areas that I never thought he would be able to come up with. And those are areas that we institutionally, faculty members, we always need folks to be ready to come and join our college. And if you want to grow, you need that. If you want to be stable, you need that. And then if you want to recruit from some downtime, you definitely need to have good people at your institution.
Yeah. So then, thanks for that, Michael. Another part of that equation, and Michael spoke to it a minute ago, was understanding the mission of the college, understanding the client, understanding the culture of the school. So we typically do a really deep dive diagnosis into the school so that we then can become an external version of your HR department or your recruiting department, and we're aligned with your messaging, right? And here's the key. It's really not a magical formula. This is what we do so you can do what you do, right? We have conversations with hundreds of people throughout the week. Most of them aren't looking for a job before they hear from us. And we're telling them your story, Michael's story, and they never would have heard about Michael's story unless someone called them and told them. Why? Because they're doing what they do, and they're really good at what they do, and their head is down, and they're getting their work done. Our job is to find those people, show them a inspirational reason to have a closer look at something different, and then the magic happens. They say, yes, I do want to have a conversation about it. And here's where the magic is. First person they talk to is Michael Hatten. And that, you know, and after they find out I'm talking to the chairman, that kind of starts the whole ball just really rolling faster downhill. Or uphill or downhill or whichever way in the hill. So that's kind of the formula, right? We just have as many conversations as we possibly can with people who are, first of all, skill aligned, right? Credential aligned, and then we start trying to discover if they're culturally aligned. And if they're culturally aligned, then, you know, we've got a really good fit. Let me see where we were, Michael. So, one of the biggest misconceptions we see is treating retention as an HR issue. I even said an HR side hustle. That's their job, right? The reality is retention in every aspect, not just the employees, but the students as well, is an all-hands-on-deck undertaking. Everybody's involved in retention. That's been my experience. I don't know, you guys might have a different outlook on it.
Totally true.
Absolutely, right?
It takes a village.
Takes a village. Okay, I like that. Need to coin that one. So it really starts with the recruitment strategy and how we actually go about the recruitment strategy. So let's take a closer look at these components that are on this particular slide. So retention starts with hiring aligned people in the first place. Good recruitment reduces downstream instability, right? And again, when we get downstream instability, everybody feels it. So should retention be first and foremost in the minds of everybody when they walk in the door? I think so, right? And I'm not going to go through all of these because, for the sake of time, you guys can read this if you download download the presentation. But finally, I do want to look at that last one, which is institutional effectiveness strategy. Because stable teams produce stronger student experiences and outcomes. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm really harping on the student experience, right? And the reason that I'm doing that is because I truly believe that. And the reason I truly believe that is because back in the early 90s, late 80s, when I started in this business, and I need to stop doing that, this sector, right? We had a moniker, and it was "We Change Lives." Somebody's been around long enough to remember that, right? That was our moniker. We change lives. And so when I started, I was a part-time financial aid clerk right out of college. And I remember this young lady coming in, and I was telling Jeff. I was telling Jeff about this yesterday. I don't know if anybody else, Jeff remembered though. You had the little box that you calculated financial aid on, which looked like a BlackBerry, but really long BlackBerry. Look at all the looks. They don't know what I'm talking about. But we were using that. Now, that's not the point of the conversation. So there was a young lady that came in, and I remember how scared, how nervous, how uncertain she was. And I remember telling her that she qualified for full financial aid. She'd be able to start school. She had her son with her. Son was, man, he looked like he could use some help, right? And I remember that look, and I remember the look on her face when I told her she was going to be able to go to school. She was still a little afraid, but you could see a little enthusiasm. And then I watched her develop throughout the time she was in school. And then I saw her at graduation, and her son was with her. He had on his little white shirt and buttoned up to here, and she was dressed up really nice. And I remember thinking, and still gives me chill bumps, makes me emotional, that I had something to do with changing that girl's life, right? And so, from that point, I bought in hook, line, and sinker. They moved me over to admissions. I bought in so much, right? And so, long story short, I started recruiting because one day I had an opportunity to think, how impactful could I be on all those lives, in all those places, if I just find the people that are changing lives in all these schools? And man, to have been able to do that now since 2007, and I think about all the lives that have been changed as a result of just making a call to somebody, making sure they were aligned, putting them with the right school, and the students have absolutely no idea that I had anything to do with it. Yeah, that still makes me emotional, because I really am focused on making sure the right people are in the schools so that they're doing the right thing for the people who need it the most, right? So with that said, institutional effectiveness strategy is everybody's job. Retention's not separate from institutional effectiveness. It is institutional effectiveness. And I fully believe that, and I think I see some heads nodding, so I think you guys would agree. We're going to move on. And we were going to do a table exercise. You want to do this table exercise, Michael? You think we have time? No, I'm asking. Do you think it's a good idea?
I have something to say, but I'm not sure it's going to match up with our slide presentation. And I just want to make sure that this point gets driven home even more crystallized than it has been in our presentation. I did not believe, with all the years I've had of experience and all the jobs I've done in post-secondary education over the course of my career, I did not understand the impact that the HR department and that process of hiring and getting the right people into the institution was critical to success. I really didn't, it didn't focus me until I semi-retired, and I just picked a job I liked, and I loved talking about the school, and one thing led to another, and success followed. We were prepared. We had people coming into interviews. They weren't taking time up from the important business of the college. We were screening. We were working together to get the right applicant. If there's anything you take away from this morning's presentation, and hopefully you will take a few things away, you'll go back to your human resources department, wherever they are, maybe look a little differently at it, see if there's some things that you can improve in that process. And I believe that when you do that, you're going to experience the kind of growth and the kind of attachment that we have at our college for yourselves. Because what I've learned about APC is there are an awful lot of very, very smart people in this room who have accomplished incredible things against odds that are significant. And if you want to focus in on something, we always focus in on enrollments and things of that nature. Take a look at your HR department. Take a look at who might be able to attach themselves or be able to be a spokesperson for your institution for that initial presentation of who you are and what you want to do. And if you do that, you maybe find that person at your school that does the kind of things that I do, you might have the kind of outcome you're looking for. And that's long-term, high-quality employment from the people you hire.
So, for the sake of time, we'll skip over the table discussion. But what I can tell you is, again, you can download this and maybe do some internal practicing with your teams when you get back to your campuses. But I think this slide needs special recognition, and I tend to think that it's the most important slide in today's presentation, because many of us have become accustomed to measuring what's easiest to verify, right? The hard work and the factors that we really need to verify that might predict long-term success of people you hire is really important. And this slide talks about it. So let's not get it confused and think that I'm confused, because I know that credentials matter. They literally matter. The accreditor, kind of drives the pattern there. Experience matters, also, things that we have to do. But neither of those are going to guarantee long-term success. So we've all hired people that look great, looked outstanding on paper. And then after the first week, we were wondering, what the hell did I do? Right? I know I have. And we've probably overlooked candidates who were a really good fit, but for whatever reason, we passed on them. So measuring the wrong things, it's not neutral. It has downstream effects as well. So this, again, goes back to something that I mentioned earlier, or actually it's in an earlier slide, which is it affects things like turnover, re-onboarding. Got to be a fireman because I got to put out this, whatever this fire is. And then most importantly, it affects students, and student disruption is affected by it. Institutional stability, again, is and we've seen the effects of institutional stability on a lot of our schools that are no longer with us. We talked a lot about that yesterday with several people. So the solution is not abandoning credentials. It is adding to what you already have to look for, things like behavioral fit, mission alignment, adaptability, leadership capacity. And those are part of the document that I said I would be able to share with anyone who wants it. And it's literally broken down by position in our sector, right? And I'll provide those to anyone who wants it. And from those characteristics that we're looking for, you can then create questions that will allow you an opportunity to determine how this person might operate in your institution. So the reason I'm willing to do that, and just another disclaimer, I should have said this at the beginning, but let me say this. The thing I didn't want this presentation to be was a commercial for my firm. I didn't want, matter of fact, I didn't even want to do this. Right? So Michael thought it was a good idea because his colleagues could learn something, possibly, and take away some information that could potentially help your schools, which ultimately do what? Help the students, which is the primary objective here. So for anyone who wants that, I'm willing to give it to you. So a couple of things that we're trying to avoid, obviously, is turnover, more onboarding, et cetera. I'm going to skip over this slide, and we're going to go right to this one. So one of the most encouraging things that we've learned in our partnership is that positive momentum, and actually we've learned this in just experience working as long as we have. Positive momentum works in the same way as negative momentum does, right? And that's real. Instability creates ripple effects, but stability creates, the opposite of that. Ripple effects in a good way. So let me explain this flywheel really quick. So it starts with hiring aligned people, the right people, not simply people who are available. So who out here, let's be honest, I know you're around your friends and your colleagues, but who out here has hired someone because we just needed to get a body in that seat so we could get a class started? My man, look at that. A couple honest people, I like that. And the rest of you, I will pray for you. No, the rest of you, man, that's great that you haven't had to do that. I've been around a long time, so I've seen a lot of that. And I work with a lot of schools, so I've seen a lot of that. And again, the result of that, always negative. Well, not always, but most times it's negative, right? So aligned hires are more likely to stay, contribute, and grow. Stable teams create continuity. Continuity reduces crisis, and we all want to reduce the crisis. I know I do. And it protects the institutional knowledge. And one of the other things that we do is we take into account that accreditation is in jeopardy when people leave, right? Because institutional knowledge leaves with them. And I'm sure you guys have, great processes for maintaining that institutional knowledge as well. But if you don't, I think it's really important to get one, right? Students benefit from consistency, relationships. They deepen. Support strengthens. There's a whole ripple effect of positive things, and stronger outcomes reinforce institutional confidence internally and externally. The flywheel only works if we start here, hiring for alignment. And then everything else kind of flows naturally as long as everybody's doing what they should be doing and the right people are in the right seats. I don't know if anybody has read Gino Wickman's Entrepreneurial Operating System, and what's the other one? What is it?
Good to be great.
Good to Great, yep, that's a good one. I'm thinking more about, what is that? Rocket Fuel, yeah, Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. If you haven't read those books, I highly encourage them because they are about finding the right people and putting them in the right seats, and then giving them the latitude to do what they do best, trusting them to do that, right? You got anything else? It looks like you're picking up the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the secret sauce here, at least it's been for us, is, and this isn't, Trey represents a boutique operation. This could apply to any operation out there. He takes the time, and I know because I was there, to understand your institution, to understand what drives your institution, to understand the culture, so that we spend hours in that regard, so that Trey gets a chance to reach out to people. He already knows what we're looking for. He already has answers to a number of the questions that arise in our relationship. We're looking for a bursar. It's just an anecdotal story. We're looking for a bursar. It's pretty hard to find, to get a good bursar into your institution and have that person be productive. And when we were up against a few issues with some of the people who are in our corporate office, and Trey had, this is how deep the relationship goes and how important it is. Trey called up and said, here's a suggestion you may want to implement in this process of hiring so that the burst sergeant at the college campus can coordinate the activity with the person at the corporate office. So that was something that he had on his own incorporated into our process. And that's what you get when you're operating with a boutique recruitment service. So that's also incredibly important. Alignment, fit and alignment. And it really, at the end of the day, that's what carries a really good interview process.
So we are up against the clock. There's 4 takeaways here. Again, this next slide is going to give you a QR code. Actually, it's 2 down. Our contact information is also on the slide and in the presentation. Any questions from anyone before we finish? Nope.
David?
I would just make the comment that, particularly for our accredited institutions, I think the point that you were making on retention really resonates well. And I remind everybody that the things that you're talking about really speak to accreditation standards, and I know that many of our schools are going through it now or have been through it or will be. Keeping good track and good retention records really helps to demonstrate that you have a stable faculty and a stable institution. The day will come, and I've been through it myself, where a wonderful team will come to visit your campus, and some unhappy member of your faculty or staff will attack them and tell them what a lousy place you are.
Right.
And in my case, that's probably true, but at your school, it's probably not true. And having wonderful retention data that you can show the team or you can put into your report that shows the average length of service, how long people have been with you, that you have a 78% retention rate over a period of time, or that demonstrates the improvement of credentials over time. That really speaks right to that and defends the institution and protects the institution against that unhappy member of the faculty or staff. And it happens all the time. I've served on almost a dozen teams, and almost every time I walk in, they tell me what a lousy place it is, but then you see the data for the school, and they retain 98% of their people, and they've been there a long time, and the fit is good. And then you talk to people, and you realize that this is just one unhappy person.
Yeah.
And as one accreditor once told me, one does not a pattern make. So I encourage you to listen to the good sage advice, but more importantly, to make sure that you have records in your institution and that you are sharing it with your accreditors when they come in without being asked about how well your people are being retained, what kind of credentials they have, and you show the improvement of those credentials over time. So faculty development, staff development, retention, all of these things lead to a stable, and at the end of the day, happy students, happy faculty, happy staff lead to accreditation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else have any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
One final comment.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to keep me from speaking these. Just want to go on and on. Good partnerships make for quality outcomes. Good partnerships make for quality outcomes. I just made that up. And I have proof. I have proof. I have a beautiful wife that I love dearly. 46 years of marriage has been a partnership that has reverberated throughout our family. And that's what we're looking for, folks. That's the bottom line. Good partnerships. Find them, and you'll be successful.
Yeah. All right, so again, thank you all for allowing me into your clubhouse. If you don't use my firm, which is okay, find a partner that you guys can, resonate with and that you can connect with, who can help you and has a mission-driven recruiting practice. It's critical. A lot of people just put butts in seats. So find somebody specifically that can help you find the people that will help keep those kids in these classes. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.